Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be talking to you today and to get to share the work of one of my favorite artists with you. Since we're right in the middle of springtime with all this beautiful flowers blossoming every day around us, I thought we'd talk about Vincent van Gogh and his depictions of several types of flowers. Van Gogh is one of the most beloved modern painters, and hopefully after seeing some of his work today, you'll understand why. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Obviously, that's his face that we're looking at, and that is a self-portrait that he made. So Vincent van Gogh was born March 30th, 1853 in Holland, in a family of 8 children. As an adult, he worked selling art in a gallery, and when that didn't work out, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps to become a minister before he started his own painting career at the age of 28. So in just over a decade, he created about 2,100 artworks, including around 860 oil paintings, most of which were made in the last 2 years of his life. He did not live a long life. He died at the age of 37, but he produced so much work during that time that we still talk about him today. So in 1886, Van Gogh moved to Paris, where Impressionist and avant-garde painters were working, and he became close friends with another famous artist named Paul Gauguin, as they both worked to develop their own style of painting. So they kind of took inspiration from the Impressionists, but tried to give their work a little more life, a little more emotion. In 1888, Van Gogh moved to Provence in the south of France in search of a particular type of sunlight that would strengthen the contrast of his paintings. The flowers he painted there were among his most famous and most cherished paintings. We're going to look at 3 of Van Gogh's flower paintings today in order of when he painted them. So the first one we're going to look at is probably one of Van Gogh's most famous paintings, and definitely one of the most famous of his flowers, and that is titled Sunflowers. So Van Gogh painted this in Arles in Provence in 1888. And normally Van Gogh worked to infuse a lot of emotions into his paintings, but his sunflowers were actually really meant to show his technical painting abilities to his friend Gauguin, who was coming to visit. And Gauguin was coming to stay with him for a while, so he actually decided to make a series of sunflower paintings in order to decorate Gauguin's bedroom. So there are actually many versions of the sunflower paintings. This one happens to be one of my favorite versions, but there's several in different color schemes, different styles. Some of them start with sort of dead sunflower heads laying on a table. And then these have sunflowers kind of more in a mix of life stages. So one of the versions that he made was actually done entirely in yellow. The background's yellow, the table is yellow, the sunflowers in the vase, as they are in this picture, are also yellow. And that was partially because new pigments had come out around that time that allowed the yellow to just really shine more brightly. And it was also partially just to show that someone could make a painting all in one color that still looked really nice and still had good contrast and interest. So when you look at this painting here, what stands out to you about it? What do you like about it? Why do you think it became so famous? And if you're watching this video with someone, take a moment and have a discussion about that. I think that there's a couple of really nice things about this painting. The reason I chose this one to show you over the one that was all done in yellow or over some of the others is I like the way that he combined the light blue of the painting with the bright yellow sunflowers. I think it has a really nice composition, which is like the layout of the items on the canvas. And you can see here in the background that there is some really nice texture in this painting, which is one of the things that Van Gogh really became known for, was the way that he showed all the brush strokes in his work. So he had used paint really thickly and applied it so that there was a lot of texture left on the canvas. We'll look at one later where you can actually even see the canvas through the paint because he worked so fast. He just left every brush stroke visible, and still you can get the essence of these really beautiful bright flowers. So this one hangs at an art museum in Munich, Germany, but others in the Sunflower series are all over the world. You've probably seen prints and reproductions of it in many different places. It's a really lovely set of paintings. So during the same time when Van Gogh was living in Arles, he struggled mentally. He was kind of known throughout his life for dealing with depression and anxiety and sort of having some psychotic episodes. So in this time he was getting into a lot of fights, and it was around this time that he got in a fight with Paul Gauguin, and he cut off part of his ear, as we all remember that story, and gave it to a woman. So not too long after that, he was admitted to what they called at that time an asylum in Saint-Remy in Provence. And so the next couple paintings that we're going to look at were made at his time in the asylum. All right, so this one is a painting of irises, and it was painted in the last year before Van Gogh's death in 1889. He loved working from nature all the time, so when he was in the hospital, he had to make more of a specific effort to find inspiration in nature. Luckily, the hospital had a lovely garden, and he felt that he could keep himself mentally healthy by continuing to paint. So he would go out into the garden with his canvases and his paints and make pictures. So I want you to look at this painting for a moment and just think, what is the tone or the mood of this painting? How does it make you feel, and why? Some people might feel peaceful when they look at this painting. You might feel that it's busy. You might feel it's calm. So talk for a moment about what you think of this painting. How does it make you feel? And why do you think that you feel the way that you feel about it? Is it the colors? Is it the subject of the flowers? Is it the layout of the picture? Maybe it's all of those things. So this painting was probably influenced by Japanese woodblock prints. This painting and the woodblock prints share characteristics of strong outlines, which you can see along the flowers and the leaves through here, okay? They also share unusual angles. So you can see that, like with this flower, it's a little more geometric than maybe if he was trying to represent this flower naturally with all of its natural soft curves. The other things that are in common with woodblock prints are close-up views, and also kind of what they might call a flattish color. So if we look at these leaves here, the color looks a little bit unnatural with the lighter outline than the middle of the picture. And basically with the woodblock prints and with this painting, the colors don't actually represent the way that the light or the sunlight might fall onto the leaves. It's just kind of one flat color. Van Gogh loved Japanese art. He looked a lot at woodblock prints and different styles of Japanese art. He felt it was very peaceful for him. So even though we would not maybe look at this picture and call it, immediately see the Japanese inspirations, he definitely took pieces of what he saw in that art to get that peaceful mood that he was looking for. This painting is really full of softness and lightness, and I would not say that you'd be able to look at it and think that he painted it in an asylum. It looks very happy and peaceful to me. Someone called it a picture full of life without tragedy. And I think that contributes to why this particular painting was so popular. In 1987, which is the last time that this painting was sold publicly, it sold for $54 million, which at that time was the most expensive painting ever sold. It's currently on display at the J. Paul Getty Museum in Los Angeles. So this is one that you could go see here in the US. Van Gogh's paintings hang all over the world. But the largest collection of his work is in Amsterdam at the Van Gogh Museum, where they hold over 200 pieces of his work. Let's look at one more of Van Gogh's flower paintings today. All right, this one is a picture of almond blossoms. Van Gogh loved painting blossoming trees. He painted almond blossoms both in Arles in 1888 and at the asylum in Saint-Remy in 1890, which is when this picture is from. Flowering trees were very special to Van Gogh. He found them to be beautiful, and he felt that they represented awakening and hope. This painting was made to celebrate the birth of his brother Theo's son, who was also named Vincent. So when you look at this painting, think about how it's different from the other flower paintings we've seen. What makes it stand out? Notice some of the colors, notice the arrangement of it, the spacing of different things might be interesting. It shares a lot of characteristics with Van Gogh's other work, like the visible brush strokes, which we can see through here, the heavy outlines, which you can see along the branches. But I would actually say that this one is quite different from the other two flower pictures that we looked at. And I would say that it is both the color and the composition of this one that makes it worthy of its own discussion. So the composition of a painting is the layout of the items on the canvas, the spacing of it, the tightness of it, where things fall in relation to each other. And the composition of this painting is unique, as it's really a close-up of part of a tree that fills the whole frame of the painting. All we really see here is branches, white flowers, and a clear blue sky with no other background or distracting details. So normally when Van Gogh painted trees, they were part of a landscape. So we'd see the grass in front of it, we'd see the whole tree, maybe with other trees nearby, and we'd have the sky behind it. This, and maybe some clouds even. With this one, we don't really get any of that. We get the blue of the sky, but there's no clouds, there's no hint of wind or any other details that let us know where this is or when it is. It's really a close-up, almost like a study of the almond branches and the blossoms. To me, it looks almost like you're laying down on the ground and looking up through the branches towards the sky, which gives it like a very peaceful, calming effect. I think that both the composition and the color give it that feel of light, calm joy even. Now you might see something different. That's one of the beautiful things about art, is that we can all look at a painting and see different things or feel different ways. But I do think that the lightness in Van Gogh's flower paintings are what made them so famous and so popular. So this one hangs at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Van Gogh was not commercially successful in his lifetime. He actually only ever sold one painting while he was alive. He struggled with mental illness, depression, and poverty for most of his life, and died by suicide in July of 1890 at the age of 37. But Van Gogh's legacy did not stop when he was 37. He spent so much time developing a unique style with thick applications of paint, visible brush strokes, bright, warm colors, and a lot of emotion imbued into his paintings that artists for generations, even up to today, still take inspiration from Van Gogh's work. And, you know, he's just left a lot of beauty in the world. So no matter what anyone's going through, there's an opportunity to create beauty and to make a positive influence. And so hopefully, even in this weird time where we're not all able to spend a lot of time together, we can think about the ways that we treat each other and interact with each other and appreciate the beauty all around us. I hope that if you're able to go out for some walks right now, that maybe you'll notice all the flowers that are in bloom right now and what's changing. Spring is my favorite time of year. Sometimes I hear people in our area in Washington say, spring is so short, I wish it could last so long. And I always think, if you think spring is short, you might not be paying close enough attention, because we do have a long, beautiful spring, but it happens in stages. So probably over the last few weeks, if you've been looking outside or going for walks, you've seen the daffodils in bloom. You get the earliest of the spring flowers in the bright yellow forsythia. I know right now around me, there's a lot of tulips in bloom. Soon we might have the azaleas popping out. And then later in the year, we'll get some roses and hydrangeas and dahlias and all these beautiful flowers. So hopefully as you're looking out the window or walking around, if you notice the changes that are happening around you, you can appreciate what a beautiful spring we really do have. So let's briefly go over the 3 paintings we looked at for Van Gogh today. We had this one, which is titled Almond Blossoms, and it is a close-up of the branches of a blooming almond blossom tree. We had irises from the garden in the hospital where he lived. And actually in the background, you can even see some other flowers that might be, oh, I can't think of the word, marigolds, or some other orange flowers. So he definitely was appreciating the beauty that he had around him, giving it his own interpretation when he tried to draw them. And then we have sunflowers. So even if all we have is fake flowers in a vase, you can look at them closely and appreciate the beauty and detail that they have. And if you're really inspired, you can try and create a picture of them yourself, like Van Gogh did. You know, and he really didn't get bored of it. He painted this exact painting close to a dozen times, I think. There are many, many versions of sunflowers. So I think he really took the time to look at all the details and to make it beautiful. So that is an overview of the spring flowers painted by Vincent van Gogh. I hope you all have a great day today and get to really look at the beauty of the world around us, even when we're stuck inside a little bit. Have a great day.